Good evening and welcome to tonight's Undaunted, bringing into the news on Touch Stories. I am Oyin Opala. Let's begin. Southern Cameroon continues to witness a week marked by insecurity, civic resilience, long-delayed justice, and renewed debate over freedom of expression. Heavy gunfire temporarily disrupted movements in Buea Mile 16 neighborhood, while residents of Diche 2 in Widikum took road repairs into their own hands as deteriorating infrastructure continues to challenge communities. In a landmark development, Kome Melchizedek made his first court appearance after spending nearly 9 years in detention without trial, reigniting concerns over judicial delays. Meanwhile, Nathalie Moudiki's warning to employees of the National Hydrocarbons Corporation against insulting President Biya and the SNA General Manager Adolphe Moudiki has sparked fresh conversations about free speech and workplace conduct. Here are the stories making headlines today, but first, let's get the headlines proper. Tonight on Undaunted, we take a look at heavy gunfire reported at Mile 16 in Buea as traffic was temporarily disrupted. Residents of Diche 2 in Widikum repair roads amid deepening infrastructure crisis. Kome Melchizedek finally appears in court after nearly 9 years in detention without trial. Nathalie Moudiki warns SNH employees against insulting Biya and Adolphe Moudiki renewing debate on free expression. While on the African scene, South Africa deploys special police team to probe killing of anti-immigration leader, while police erupts across Ukraine after Zelensky dismisses senior government official. Now let's get the news in full briefings. Heavy gunfire was reported early this morning around the Mile 16 area of Buea, temporarily disrupting movements along the Buea-Mutengene-Buea highway before traffic gradually resumed after the shooting subsided. According to local reports, unidentified armed men were believed to be behind the incident. The motive for the shooting remains unclear, and there has been no official confirmation regarding casualties or arrests at the time of publication. Security forces have not yet released a statement on the incident. The Mutengene-Buea Road is one of the southwest's most important transport corridors, linking the area capital to neighboring communities and serving as a vital route for commerce, education, and healthcare. Even brief security incidents along the highway can have significant consequences, leaving commuters stranded and disrupting economic activity. The latest incident shows the persistent insecurity that continues to affect southern Cameroon, where an armed war between the government and the fighters has been ongoing for 2017. Since 2017, I beg your pardon. The war emerged following protests by lawyers and teachers over perceived marginalization of the English-speaking people known as Amazonians, and later evolved into a broader war. Years of violence have taken a heavy toll on civilians, who continues to bear much of the war's impact. Residents regularly face disruptions to daily life, including restrictions on movement, school closures, displacements, and interruptions to livelihoods. Humanitarian organizations have repeatedly expressed concern over the protection of civilians and the humanitarian consequences of the prolonged war. While clashes between security forces and armed groups continues to occur in parts of southern Cameroon, responsibility for individuals' attack is often difficult to, pinpoint to the immediate aftermath of the incidents. Authorities are expected to continue monitoring the situation around mile 16 as investigations into the morning gunfire continues. Motorists traveling along the Mutengene-Buea road have been urged to remain vigilant and follow guidance from local authorities. All right, as usual, we have our in-house news analyst, Barrister Mbeshia, who is here. Barrister, good evening.
Thank you for having me.
All right, sir. Welcome to Undaunted. This first report, of course, has given an insight to a little bit of what insecurity feels like in southern Cameroon. Of course, we also use the opportunity to talk about the incidences and how civilians have been the receiver, how civilians have been at the receiving end, and at the end of the day, they fear for their lives and all of that. Let's get your point of view, sir.
Well, you've asked a question, how it feels like to be in southern Cameroon. Short and simple, it feels unsafe. Because you cannot analyze the incident in Mile 16 Buea without considering what is happening in Bamenda. We've been analyzing Bamenda every day. Either it is in Quen, it is Bafoot, it is Santa, or somewhere else over there. Either it is in Banso, either it is in Dop, or somewhere up there, or in Mamfe. And so this is a climate of generalized fear, generalized insecurity, for which nobody wants to pay responsibility, for which no government is there to control the activities of what is going on. And you've said that also at the time that we're talking now, the administration has said nothing. What did you expect them to say? They will say something, but you can predict what they will say. Because when there's just generalized fighting, what happens is that they too are running for their lives. They run away. They don't go to look for their invisible shooter. They flee for their own lives. And what would they do? After all this, they'll go somewhere, hide in their offices, and write something out and tell people to stay calm. This is Mile 16. Do you expect anything from them? There's a police station in Moya. I think gendarmes are also there. Between Mile 16 and Mutengene is less than 4 kilometers. Everything is right there. I remember that in 2016, 2017, when this thing started, the police commissioner for Moya was captured in Mile 16. He was captured by Ambazonian fighters and taken away. He was not released until after some weeks or months. And so when the man was released, he quickly retired. He just died. 9 years after he was captured, the war is not ended. He has died, leaving the struggle behind. And so again, this is a climate of generalized insecurity because of the war, which has not come to an end. Why? Because the other party is not willing to end the war. But they are unable to fight the fight. If they are able to fight the fight, why are there people fighting throwing guns in Mile 16? Mile 16 in the middle of town of Buea. Just like Moya, just like Moliko. If they are able to fight, why are they doing all that? Why is all this happening? If they are able to fight, they are not arresting the people to call criminals, shooting left and right. And so it is a climate of generalized insecurity all over Ambazonia. What you mentioned in Buea is just a symptom of what is happening, because the same thing has been repeated in Bamenda. The same thing has been repeated in So. It has been repeated everywhere else in Ambazonia. And so, again, what can we do? I mean, when I say we, I mean we, the ordinary citizens. The ordinary citizens are left nowhere. Will not escape out. What do you expect an ordinary resident of Mile 16 to do? To go out and face the bullets with his bare hands? To go out and report somebody he doesn't even know why, he doesn't even know him? And so the police, if they themselves are on the run, which are usually on the run, will not admit it. What do you expect us to do? We expect us, ordinary citizens, to be careful. And we are grateful. If they are Ambazonian fighters, we are grateful nobody was hurt. We don't want civilians hurt. We don't want civilians injured or killed. But they, Ambazonian fighters, if they are the ones, they are fighting a correct cause. They are fighting a justified cause. And therefore, you can only fight and fight until your opponent, who thought that it was he or she was stronger, realizes that force is not the answer. So says the Pope. Force is not the answer. Negotiation is the approach. Addressing issues front, on the front, face to face, solutions, come to the conference table, come to the negotiation table, face the people that are challenging them, who are challenging you, and then all the generalized insecurity would end. Everybody will be secured, including the occupiers, who can safely pack and go back home without somebody harassing them on their return. Over to you.
All right, thank you so much, Barrister. Moving on to a different development, residents of Diche in Widikum in southern Cameroon have embarked on a community-led effort to rehabilitate deteriorating roads as years of inadequate infrastructure continues to hamper daily life. Using basic tools and voluntary labor, community members have been filling potholes and clearing damaged sections of the road in an attempt to restore access to surrounding villages and essential services. The poor state of the road has made transportation increasingly difficult, affecting access to healthcare facilities, schools, local markets, and other economic activities. The initiative shows the growing burden placed on rural communities that have long struggled with limited public infrastructure. During the rainy season, many of the roads become nearly impassable, isolating residents and disrupting the movement of people and goods. Now, beyond the road network, Diche in Widikum is also grappling with a prolonged electricity crisis. Residents say the lack of a reliable power supply continues to affect households, businesses, and public services, limiting economic opportunities and making everyday life more challenging. The situation has prompted renewed calls for government authorities and humanitarian partners to intervene with lasting solutions. Community advocates have emphasized that while residents' self-help efforts demonstrate resilience and determination addressing the area's infrastructure deficits, as it will require sustained public investment and coordinated support. The road rehabilitation effort has drawn attention to the broader infrastructure challenges facing many communities in southern Cameroon, where years of war, underdevelopment, and limited public investment have compounded difficulties for local population. Residents hope their initiative will encourage authorities and development partners to prioritize, improvements in roads infrastructure, electricity supply, and other essential public services. Barrister Mbeshia, times and over again, we see residents making efforts to ensure that their environments are tidy, clean, and sometimes you would be like, oh, this is not what the government would do. It's a good thing. But while they are trying to do all of that, we also see that they are lacking power supply, just like some other areas in Ambazonia, Bamenda to be specific. The other time it was the turn of Buea, staying without power supply for over 3 months. Are they also, they've already come together to, rehabilitate the road and make it passable for themselves, especially during this season that I hear is a raining season over there. Are they also supposed to gather efforts to get electricity for themselves? Because that happens to be a serious problem aside the road rehabilitation that they have managed to take care of.
You've asked a question which I'll try to analyze and tell you that they are able to, and they could do that, even bring electricity there. Because again, we have to know where we're coming from, to know where we are right now, and know where we're heading to. The Southern Cameroon government that existed before 1961 had all structures in place. We cannot promise you that if we're in Ambazonia today, every single village road will be tarred. Every single village will have electricity. No, if you say that, we're lying to you. But just copy from where we're coming from. In the West Cameroon government, called the Southern Cameroon government, what the whole ministry called the Ministry of Cooperative and Community Development. So the thing was not left for people just to do what they are doing there. It was organized under a ministry. Because people had to take up their own responsibility. While waiting for when the government will come and die a road, that the Department of Government helped you repair those places. What help did they give you, for example? They could send their technicians there for them to show you where to put a culvert. Just digging a culvert for it so water will pass, so there will no mud on the road. They will assist you in doing that. And so every community had to take responsibility for something. That's what the Southern Cameroon government was. And they didn't just end there. We have been crying of schools. They realized that they could not go and construct schools in every single village. That was impossible. Well, what did they do? The Southern Cameroon government partnered with the missionaries that were available, Presbyterian, Baptist, Catholics, all those people who were found in every single village, and they opened schools along with the communities. If you heard, for example, Catholic school, call it in a village, or Presbyterian school, call it in a village. The pastor there identified where they would put the school, or what they needed was from the government to give them money, grants and aid. And they give them a plan. They say a classroom must be so many meters long, so many meters wide, with so many windows open left and right. Then they build their own schools. That is what it's supposed to be if a government cannot. No government in the world, not the Ambazonian government, will promise to come and do all those things for you. But they will empower you to do it. They empower you to do it for yourselves by encouraging you, by giving you the infrastructure. We talked about water. There are rivers and streams flowing all over Amazonia, if not all over Cameroon, or if not all over Africa. Why can't those villages not make their own water supply? They needed only government support, technical support. And in Southern Cameroon, there was a whole school in Buea, not in Buea, in Kumba. They call it SATA, where they trained technicians who were deployed in those communities, who showed you how to make local water for yourself. They show you where to put catchment, so you can get sufficient water flowing through the village. If you needed purification, all what they gave you was the purifying instruments. They had sanitaries who went down there and showed you how to dispose of garbage. I remember my uncle was a sanitary. The first time I saw how garbage was disposed in those days was when that man came to the village. He went to the village market and built what they call an incinerator. They were able to burn down the rubbish, the remains of whatever they found in the marketplace before the next market day. That is how we organize ourselves. You've asked about electricity. Why are rivers flowing all over in Bengui, in that community? There's a stream there. Why can they not be taught how to get their own water, electricity generated right from there? Is it possible? Of course. Let me tell you that I'm from Libya. And Libya will have a whole large Catholic hospital running day and night with all the equipment there. There's a river there. They generated their own electricity from there. And it has supplied that hospital with every electrical thing that they need, keeping the refrigerators intact, taking care of their machines. And so this is what Cameroon has abandoned. They took us and deceived us that they could do many things, and they were able to do nothing. They are unable to do anything. Even when they have the money, they steal it. They steal the whole money. It is easier for you to convince somebody in that road to give 1,000 or 2,000 francs so that they go and buy a steel cupboard than to give it to Yaoundé, to send somebody from Yaoundé to come and supervise it for them and bring a road there, because they will never bring one. They will never even get there because their heavy trucks cannot even reach those villages. And so there's so much we can do for ourselves, which we wish to do for ourselves. All what we need to do is we empower the people. The people of that village, or my village or yours, they are not looking for electricity to please the government in Yaoundé or to please the people in Buea or the people in Bamenda. They are trying to benefit from that electricity themselves. They are not asking for good water for it to be drunk by the governor in Bamenda or Buea. They are going to drink that water themselves. And we've said it before. Before we joined these people, the people of South, we can always call this, they had water supply there, which they built their water supply tanks. And when they came with snake, they wanted to take it over. People say, no, this is a hard work. We did it. We don't pay anything here. We did it. If you want to put it in your house, there's a symbolic fee you pay. You put it in your house. But the government cannot come and pretend to bring snake, for example, where they cannot give you the water, they cannot even repair what they had. They bring sonnet, for example, which cannot even bring an electric pole. Even the bird one, it will not work. Even if the bird one it was able to work, they will not be able to get a transformer. Because these people in that video will need a small transformer. They don't need to go and buy a transformer, a dead transformer like the one they installed at 17 today. It dies in Motengele the next day. No, no. That is what we're fighting to restore. Like I've said, we shall do better. We're not going to multiply the money, but we shall put the technical services available. We shall teach our people how to be responsible for themselves. And we shall help them technically and otherwise. That's all what we need to do. That's what governments need to do, for especially in third world countries. Let people take over their own responsibilities. All those schools I've mentioned, Catholic school, Baptist school, Presbyterian school, you did not find a dilapidating school. So those schools are closed, but the buildings are still standing there. But today we have government schools created on a piece of paper. People are sitting under thatches in palm fronts, cutting trees on the bush and trying to make benches. These are the very sticks. If that village community was taught where they will fell those very sticks, they will saw it into timber, they will make the rare benches. They will not need to go and import a bench from Douala. The wood in that bush, in their own farmyard, could make them benches. But they are not empowered to do this. Why? Because they want to steal. If they give that contract, make us 100 benches, they will give for 10 million. He will make nothing. Whoever the contractor, he will steal the money. That's the whole thing we're fighting about. We have to be responsible for ourselves, and we have been. We want to do that, to teach them that all what we're doing then, in the 1960s, we didn't even have this gas, we didn't have petrol, we didn't have sonora. We were doing it out of almost nothing other than the CDC. But today that we have all this gas everywhere, gold everywhere, we can do better and we will do better. And therefore, those people of that village in that place, I commend them for doing what they are supposed to do. If you sit there waiting for Barr, the minister from Yaoundé, to come and give you the road, you're wasting your time. If they give her 10 million to come and do that road, you will not even see 4. They will spend all the money on the road. Over to you.
All right, thank you so much, Barrister. In another news entirely, last week we brought you this report of Melchizedek. Now, after spending nearly 9 years behind bars without a single court hearing, Cameroonian mechanic Kome Melchizedek, popularly known as Kome, is expected to make his first appearance in court today in what many are describing as a significant moment for justice and human rights in the Cameroons. Kome was arrested on the 5th of December 2017 during the early stages of the Southern Cameroon's war. Since then, he has remained in detention without being tried or convicted or given the opportunity to defend himself before a judge. His prolonged imprisonment has become one of the most striking examples of delay and alleged failures within Cameroon's criminal justice system. The case gained renewal public attention after Undaunted News published an investigation detailing Kome's prolonged detention without trial. The report sparked widespread outrage among citizens, legal observers, and human rights advocates who questioned how an individual could remain in prison for almost a decade without due process. Public concern intensified after Undaunted further highlighted the case, revealing that Kome had spent years in prison without a conviction, judgment, or the constitutional guarantee of a fair and speedy trial. The revelation fueled calls for judicial accountability and renewed scrutiny of the treatment of detainees in Cameroon prison. The growing campaign for justice also attracted the attention of award-winning blogger and influencer Future, who pledged $1 million francs CFA to any competent and compassionate lawyer willing to take up Kome's case and help secure his release before the end of the year. And these announcements even brought greater national attention to the matter and encouraged renewed legal efforts. So Kome's scheduled court appearance today will mark the first known judicial proceedings in his case since his arrest in 2017. While it does not bring an immediate end to his legal ordeal, it at least represents a long-awaited breakthrough after years of silence, uncertainty, and alleged violations of his rights to a timely trial. So beyond Kome's personal story, the case has come to symbolize broader concerns about the Cameroon's justice system. Human rights organizations and legal experts have repeatedly raised concern over prolonged pre-trial detention, prison overcrowding, and delays in judicial proceeding, particularly in cases linked to the Amazonian war. For Kome, today's hearing is not just justice, it is what we can say is the beginning of a legal process that many believe should have started years ago. Whether the proceedings will ultimately lead to his release or a fair determination of his case, well, it remains to be seen. Well, Undaunted News will continue to monitor developments in court and provide updates as the case unfolds, especially after today's court session. Barrister Mbeshia. Last week we talked about this. This week he's having his first court session. Let's get your point of view.
Yes, we talked about it last week, and today is having a first session. But before I thought I would rather classify this as this. There's nothing in Cameroon called the justice system. Now, what I classify in my own words, if you excuse me, is the injustice system. There's no justice system in Cameroon. It is the injustice system. Because this young man, for 9 years, can he get justice? No. If you ask him to walk back home the next day, this evening, have you done him justice? Why has he been kept for 9 years? 9 years is a lifetime. That is if he had a child, the child would be going to Sunday school. So what justice can you do to this guy? And thousands of others. So the system is so unjust. And because they are so unjust, they are also very, very manipulative. I remember one of my sermons, I said, look, you can manipulate a few people sometimes, but you cannot manipulate everybody. You cannot manipulate a whole nation. This is absolute justice manipulation. Because what you will find is that they can bring that guy there. They are trying him because we have put some pressure, pretending to try him for a crime that does not even exist. Even if it does exist, it's not even up to 9 years jail. But they will do that, they will not even release him as long as they believe that they are keeping him in relation to the Amazonian struggle. They will keep him there. If he's lucky to survive, so be it. Where's Ndango and others? And so it is an injustice system, not a justice system. It does divert a bit from them. All of us, everybody knows the Naira 10. The Naira 10 were taken January 5th, 2018. They kept them. They pretended to try them. The case went on appeal. They pretended to hear the appeal. Heard what they said, and believe they had a reason. But rather than dismiss, ask them to go back home after 9 years or 10 years that they have almost been there, what did they do? They asked them to go to the court of appeal again for another trial, a delaying tactic, which I said here before. What will happen in the court of appeal? The court of appeal might say, go back to the military tribunal. It took almost 7 years to go to the Supreme Court. And if you go to the military tribunal and you don't succeed, you start the appeal process all over again, which should take you another 7-10 years to go to the Supreme Court. How many years is that? That's 15 years or 20 years of a court process that is not justified. Because again, as far as that was concerned, all of us agree, they were adopted from Nigeria. This young man was adopted from his house. They committed no crime. If they had committed a crime, they were abroad. To get them back to Cameroon, you needed to extradite them. They didn't do it. They flouted all the rules and all the legal instruments available. I brought them there, and they're pretending to give them justice. Is that what anybody with the knowledge of law can call justice? Is that what any person with knowledge of human rights can call it justice and human rights respect? No. This is a kangaroo of government. I don't know why they exist, or how they even feel. These are people stained with illegalities. And so, poor boy. So far, we don't know what they're charging him for. We don't even know. But while everybody is judging, at least he's coming to court. At least he's coming to court. To what court and for what justice? He's going to a court just as a show. There is a showcase. They are trying to showcase that they are doing some justice. Where no justice will be done. No justice has been done to that gentleman, like thousands of others. Some of who have died there. I've just mentioned Dango. Dango died for doing what? They captured him 9 years ago, chained him on his bed, and then finally they said he died in prison. And so, do you expect anything different? No, this young man, if he's lucky to be alive, thanks be to God. But don't expect any justice from those people. Again, as I've said, if they ask me to go back to his house this evening, can we ever say there is justice? Can any right-thinking people say that is correct human rights violation, respect? What he went through in torture over there, can they ever compensate him morally? Can they compensate him physically? Can they compensate him financially? They would not. And so that's why I say the whole system is a system of injustice. There's no justice there. It's a system of injustice grounded on criminals who themselves... No, you don't expect justice from a criminal. A criminal will behave a criminal way. And so, young man, let us pray for you. If they can release you, thank God. But the chances are rare that you will all be told that another day come back to court. Even if you win, they will appeal and take it through their kangaroo court to their kangaroo Supreme Court. We should not give government, we should not give any judgment, to simply refer you to another court, where you will not have any justice. No justice in Cameroon, no justice for Amazonians. The only place we will find justice is when we get out of it. We get out of that jungle. We will establish ourselves. Have the real justice system that remains accountable. Have the real politicians who themselves are accountable. Have the magistrates and judges who themselves are accountable. Without which, we're wasting our time. Over to you.
All right, thank you so much. Everyone should be held accountable, and without which we are just wasting our time. Thank you so much for that powerful phrase there. Moving on to a report from neighboring Cameroons. Nathalie Moudiki, a senior official at the National Hydrocarbons Corporation, has warned employees that disciplinary measures could be taken against staff who insult President Biya or SNH General Manager Adolphe Moudiki. The warning was made during an event marking inauguration of the company's gym, where Moudiki, who also serves as technical advisor to the SNH General Manager, emphasized the need for employees to uphold respect for the head of state and the leadership of the state-owned oil company. Her remarks have sparked renewed public discussion over the boundaries between workplace discipline and employees' right to freedom of expression. Critics argue that warnings of sanctions for comments about public officials may have a chilling effect on speech, particularly within state institutions where employees may fear disciplinary action for expressing opinions about government leaders. The comments have also revived long-standing debate over Nathalie's influence within SNH, although she officially serves as technical advisor to the general manager. According to research, political observers and critics have frequently alleged that she exercises considerable influence over the management of the corporation. And so those claims, of course, remains a subject of public debate, just like we are going to bring it out here for Barrister Mbeshia to, share his 2 cents. Well, their development comes amid broader discussions in Cameroon about civic freedoms, including freedom of expression and the extent to which public servants can openly express opinions about political leaders and senior government officials. Human rights organizations have, over the years, raised concerns about restrictions or free expression in the country, while the government maintains that laws governing public order, defamation, and professional conduct must be respected. The latest remarks are likely to add to ongoing public scrutiny of governance, accountability, and the balance between institutional discipline and the protection of fundamental freedoms within Cameroon's public space. Barrister Mbeshia, how do you see this particular report? It's okay to tell your employees to not talk about the organization, but warning them about the head of state who has been democratically elected. Seems to be, a little bit here and there. But let's get your point of view.
It's unfortunate that we find ourselves where we are. Who is this Nathalie Moudiki? She is the girlfriend of Adolphe Moudiki turned into his wife. And not just turned into his wife, turned into his successor administratively and politically. Because the Adolphe Moudiki, who was supposed to be the general manager of SNH, has not been seen popularly for the past 3, 4, 5 years. He's usually dead. They will not bury it, but he's dead. And somebody, an imposter, jumps up and begins to act in his place. Who is that imposter? No one else other than his former girlfriend, turned into his wife, and then turned into the acting general manager of the SNH. And even she goes beyond that. She's not just administering the stuff over which she has imposed herself. She's taking roles which are not, that company does not even take. Is this SNH, even under Moudiki, a law enforcement institution, to arrest people or to warn people for committing or not committing particular crimes? If talking about the president or insulting Adolphe Moudiki is a crime, who's supposed to enforce that crime? Who's supposed to enforce that law? It is not a crime anyway, but who's supposed even to enforce it? One would expect that that woman, by herself, or her husband, who is supposed to be the general manager of everything, he would be talking to his workers, telling them good performance, how to do a good job, not telling people not to talk bad of Paul Biya, their self-made God, or Adolphe Moudiki, their self-made angel Gabriel. And so, again, this is the mark of illegality. This is the mark of injustice, I've said. This is a mark of political madness. Because I said, I don't know what Cameroon, how they even expect us to come and join them. That somebody would transform, for example, an institution like the SNH that deals with sensitive minerals, oil, and gas, and other minerals, to become a personal property that he or she will will it to his wife to run if he is sick. And nobody will will raise a finger. But we'll talk about it here because you're dealing with SNH. By and large, 80% of the products about that, I'm not sure, in that SNH deals with is petrol. It is petrol from Dian that passes through Sonara. We are not there. The story of Sonara money being stolen in open daylight is clear. And so we remember Akerimona with his Glencore. And what did Glencore results say? Investigations from, according to Akerimona, they paid money to the high officials of Sonara. They paid money to the high officials of SNH. They paid big monies to the presidency. To do what? To allow them buy the oil at one-third the price. At one-third the price. Even at one-third the price, what does Ambazonian get out of it? According to Article 20 of the African Charter on Peoples and Human Rights, people are supposed to benefit from their own minerals, the mineral resources of their own place. Where is 1 inch of road in Dian? We're talking about people digging road with their hands in somewhere in Momo. That's part of Ambazonia. That money from Sonora, from the oil in Dian, could have dug all the roads in Ambazonia, including the one where people are digging it with their hands. Notwithstanding that the oil is in Dian, we would have spread the money. And to end it, I'll give a way of illustration. All of us know something called the CDC, the Cameroon Development Corporation. It was created in 1947. And the proceeds were poured back to the community. It is part of the proceeds of the CDC, which was headquartered in Bota, Victoria, not Bamenda, not Womb. They are the proceeds from that CDC, that open government school, Bamenda. Notwithstanding that the place was in Bamenda, it was in Victoria. They are the process from there that created an open government school, Kumba. At the time, we didn't have this name in mind. They call Kumba Division, Bamenda Division, and so on and so forth. And so these are imposters, criminal imposters, who should not even be talking. Honestly speaking, that woman should be in jail for imposing herself on Sonora, such a sensitive organization. And you see what you are trying to do. She thinks that poor Biya, the gunmaker of the place, she's so concerned with somebody talking about Biya or about her husband, who is the director of, who is the general manager of SNH. That nobody can talk ill about him. People have the right to their opinion. If they have committed an offense, let them go to court. Let the complainants sue them. Is that lady, is she a complainant? If she's a complainant for poor Biya, who gave her the authority? If they insulted poor Biya or defamed poor Biya, is she the one to defend that case? If they insulted Adolphe Moudiki, her dear husband, who is dead but living, what's the problem? Why can't her husband stand up and say if it is a crime? And so you find imposters who have imposed themselves. See, if you saw the picture she's standing there, she's like an angel flying from heaven. But look at the community over which there's no money, they're stealing the money, no development. My poor people in Momo are digging roads with their hands. They're even digging roads with their hands. My poor people in Liberia don't even have any inch of road. The people in Kome, there's nothing there. And Madam Moudiki, you're asking people to worship poor Biya. You may be right. Because whereas your husband is the general manager, you have usurped the power. Just like poor Biya, Cameroon elected one president only. For example, in 2018, they elected only one president, Mr. Paul Biya. And what did President Paul Biya do? He mortgaged that post to Secretary General Ngongo in writing. Call it delegation of powers, which was not delegation of power, it was absconsion from power. Because that is delegation of power included one clause. That only the Secretary General Ngongo would determine what action Paul Biya can take. Therefore, it is he delegating power to the president, not the president delegating power to him. Like Moudiki, whatever position she holds in SNH, which was further anyway, because she's not the best qualified person, the wife of the general manager must hold this directorate in the department. What injustice is that? What morality is that? Again, we can only take so much. There comes a time we say we can no longer take it. It will not happen in Amazonia. Never, I can promise you. Throughout the time that we're in Amazonia, we had at least 3 prime ministers. What Mr. Ndele, Dr. Ndele, what J. and Fancha, what Joa. Their wives, none of their wives occupy any prominent position in government. None of their wives occupied a protocolic position in protocol. And so they vote a president who get a general manager. The general manager acts, not his wife. Who get the president, you work, not your wife. And so the reputation that we find here one day, where Madame Chantal has become number 2, even during official ceremonies, she sits next. Where does she fall in the protocol of Cameroon? Officially. They voted one president, Mr. Paul Biya, not Madame Chantal Biya. They appointed Adolphe Moudiki, not his wife. And so this stupidity, these duplications, this immorality, this insensitivity will stop. And it will stop as soon as we get to Amazonia. Over to you.
All right. Thank you so much, Barrister. Thank you so much for being part of Undaunted. And of course, this is where we'll let you go. And hopefully over the weekend, specifically on Saturday, we'll also come around to, analyze all of the issue we'll be bringing to the front burner.
Thank you for having me.
All right. Thank you, Barrister. When we come back from the break, we'll head into Africa, where we'll get into South Africa as they deploy special police team to probe killing of anti-immigration leader. South African police have appointed a multidisciplinary team of detective and crime intelligence officers to investigate the killing of Andile Musilawa Somgasa, the Gauteng provincial leader of the anti-immigration group March and March. Somgasa was shot on the 3rd of July while in the driveway of his home in Johannesburg. He sustained series of injury and remained in hospital for 10 days before succumbing to his wounds. The investigation has been elevated to a specialized task team, bringing together experienced detectives and crime intelligence officers to determine the motive behind the attack and identify those responsible. In a statement, March and March alleged that Somgasa's killing was linked to the organization's campaign against undocumented migration. The group claimed it believes the attack was carried out in retaliation for its efforts to pressure undocumented migrants to leave South Africa. Authorities have not confirmed any motive and say all possibilities remain under investigation. Police have urged anyone with information that could assist the investigation to come forward. Somgasa's death has renewed attention on the increasingly polarized debate over immigration in South Africa, where anti-immigration groups have staged protests and campaigns calling for stricter enforcement of immigration laws. The case is also expected to raise concerns about the safety of political and civic activists operating in a highly charged environment. The multidisciplinary investigation remains ongoing and no arrests have been announced as of now. And so when we return from the break, we'll head into the globe where protest has erupted across Ukraine after Zelensky dismisses senior government official. Protests have broken out in several Ukrainian cities following President Volodymyr Zelensky's surprise dismissal of a senior government official, with demonstrators expressing concern over the decision and calling for greater transparency from the government. Crowds gathered in major cities carrying placards and chanting slogans in support of their dismissed official, who had built a reputation amongst many Ukrainians for his leadership and public service. Protesters argue that the move could undermine confidence in the government's leadership at a time when the country continues to face significant security and economic challenges. The dismissal has sparked intense political debate, with opposition figures and civil society groups questioning the timing of the decision and urging the government to provide a detailed explanation. Supporters of President Zelensky, however, have defended the president's constitutional authority to reshape his cabinet, arguing that leadership changes are sometimes necessary to improve government's performance. The demonstrators come as Ukraine remains under immense pressure from Russia's ongoing invasion, which has forced their government to balance wartime decision-making with public demands for accountability and institutional stability. Leadership changes involving senior officials often attract heightened scrutiny because of their potential impact on military operations, international partnerships, and public confidence. The government has yet to issue a comprehensive statement addressing their protest, while authorities have urged demonstrators to remain peaceful. Political analysts say the coming days will be closely watched for further public reaction, and any clarification from the presidency regarding the reasons for the dismissal will also be stated. And that's it for tonight's Undaunted. But before we go, let's take a look at the stories that made it to tonight's headlines. Well, tonight on Undaunted, we told you that heavy gunfire was reported at mile 16 in Buea and traffic was temporarily disrupted. Also tonight, residents of Diche in Widikum repair roads amid deepening infrastructure. Tonight on Undaunted, Kome Melchizedek finally appears in court after nearly 9 years in detention without trial. Tonight on Undaunted, Nathalie Moudiki warns SNH employees against insulting Paul Biya and Adolphe Moudiki, renewing debate on free expression. While on the African scene, South Africa deploys special police team to probe killing of anti-immigration leader, while protests erupt across Ukraine after Zelensky dismisses senior government official. That's it for tonight's Undaunted, bringing it to the news untold stories. On behalf of Barrister Mbeshia and a team of technicians behind tonight's production, it's good night and God bless you.